I want to share the 5 money lessons that I learned from the Bible that made me rich at 22. And this video is going to be almost like a journal entry for me, quite similar to my last video. I have my notes here where I sort of just, collectively put my thoughts together. I want to share this with you because this is really important to me. And these lessons have revealed a lot to me that allowed me to succeed at a fast scale and, more importantly, become the man that God sees as reliable. I'm going to start with the fact that I used to think that God wanted me to struggle financially. Right? I was thinking about the best way to start this, and that's literally what I thought. I used to think that God wanted me to struggle financially, so I stayed stuck, calling it faith. And fast forward now, I'm 22 years old, running a multi-six-figure coaching business. But to get here, I had to unlearn so many things, starting with the belief that God wanted me to struggle financially. The first thing I even want to mention, the Bible is full of men that worked, built, and produced. We think about Paul in Acts. We learn that Paul was actually a tent maker. We know that Jesus is a carpenter. We know that David, before he sat on the throne, he was a shepherd, right? Peter, a fisherman. There's stewardship and work ethic and entrepreneurship all over the Bible, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. I said you need to stop ignoring the blueprint that has already been laid out, right? Because the Bible doesn't just teach faith, it teaches responsibility and what it means to be a good and faithful servant. This is why so many people stay stuck, is because they refuse to look at biblical principles from a financial standpoint. I want you to understand that this book has every answer you would ever need in life, in business, in relationships, in health. Whatever it is, this book is the answer. So with that being said, you want to make money? You want to keep God at the center of your life? You want to learn how to not make money an idol? The answer's in here. Look how the people did it that walked before you. My first point is that God expects multiplication, not preservation. We're going to go over to Matthew 25, verse 14. This is going to be the parable of the talents. And I'm reading out of the NIV, and I believe it's going to say the parable of the bags of gold. Again, and this is Jesus saying this parable, mind you. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. Verse 17, so also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. Verse 19, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more bags. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with few. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Verse 22, the man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came into the master. He said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not yet sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and hid your gold in the ground. See here what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. The NIV says bags of gold, but what the master gave them was talents. And 1 talent was equivalent to 20 years worth of wages. And I know you guys hear this parable a lot, but what I want you guys to understand from this parable is that a lot of you are sitting on potential and calling it patience. Where you're dressing up your excuses as faith and saying, oh, I'm waiting because in God's timing it's gonna happen. Notice how the master equipped them with what they needed to multiply and be fruitful. And it was up to them. It was their responsibility to go out there and put their hands to work their fields, to multiply. God has given you gifts. He has done his part, but you want God to do everything for you. You want God to make it happen for you. That's not what he's gonna do, right? He's gonna watch and he's gonna see what you do with what he's given you. And based on what you do, he will bless you with more, or he'll take what you have and he'll give it to the ones that are multiplying, to the ones that are putting their talents to use. And I want you to understand this. Your talents come in many different forms. And some of you guys may be asking yourself, well, what are my talents? And your talents don't just mean money. God has given you skills. For me, I love leadership. Everyone would ask me for advice on fitness and just becoming a better version of themselves, more discipline, more self-control. And I have really good leadership skills. I took that and I am now teaching that to others. Look in your house, just like Elijah told the woman, look in your house, what do you have that you can offer this world? What skills do you have that you can offer? You have time, you can invest time. Hopefully, and I'm praying that you have 2 arms and 2 legs. You have a body that you can put to work, that you can put to labor. And 4th, you can have a platform. Now more than ever, there's social media. You can steward a platform. But if you are not multiplying what God has already given you, you cannot expect more. If you are not multiplying what God has given you, you cannot expect more. My second point that I have written down is that lazy hands create poverty. Proverbs 10 verse 4. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Proverbs 6 verse 10. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. A lot of people are asking God to provide while holding on to patterns that are keeping them stuck. You want God to bless you with more, but you continue to display that you do not have the ability to handle more responsibility. The patterns in your life, the habits that you have, is the same reason why God hasn't blessed you with more. Whatever more looks like, whether it's financially, provision, whether it's opportunity-wise, whether it's whatever the case is. You must first become a man that is reliable before God will put more responsibility in your hands. Back when I first got into business and I started fitness coaching, there was a season where I had to unwire my mind. I had to rework my way of thinking and understand that just because I'm a faithful servant of God, just because I follow God, doesn't mean He's going to do it for me. I thought that God would bless me just with prayer alone. And I had to unlearn that. I had to rewire my mind. And Proverbs taught me that I need to rewire the way that I think. God doesn't just bless intention, He blesses obedience. He has given you talents, He has given you gifts, He has given you the opportunity, and it is up to you to cultivate that opportunity and bring His will to life. And if you showcase reliability, He will bless you with more. Which goes into our next lesson, which is lesson 3, wealth is a responsibility. All right, so Deuteronomy 8 verse 18 says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today." So Deuteronomy 8:18 taught me God gives you the ability to acquire wealth. God is not going to give you money, He is going to give you the ability to to acquire wealth. He is going to give you ideas. He is going to bless you with skills. He is going to bless you opportunity. But it is ultimately up to you to cultivate and to bring His will and the blessing to life. God is not blessed intention. I always knew that He has called me to do great things. I always knew that, I was supposed to be in a position where I was leading and stewarding men and helping men build themselves up. In the case of coaching, right, in some sort. And that intention is not enough, is what I'm trying to say. You see, God is not necessarily looking at your intentions, but what you do. Do you walk in obedience? The one thing that pleases God is faith, and faith is not passive. Faith is not, let me sit still and let me think. Faith moves. With that being said, He gives us the ability to cultivate opportunities. He's not going to bless you with the money itself. You first must become a man that is responsible. What I have written here is most people are waiting on blessings instead of building capacity. It's like being given a seed and complaining you don't have a tree. God has blessed you with an opportunity to build wealth. Whether or not you make it happen is dependent on you. God is not going to do it for you. And that lesson alone equipped me with the courage to actually take action, because God is not concerned with my intentions, but what I do, right? What I do next, because delayed obedience is disobedience. If you feel called to do something, if God has blessed you with talents, you are obligated to go out there and put them to use. It is not a choice. The fourth lesson is a man is called to provide and protect. 1 Timothy 5 verse 8. I'm actually in Timothy with the guys in Called Coaches. In our Bible studies, we read this just the other day. I had written it down. 1 Timothy 5 verse 8. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives and especially for their own household has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. This right here was truthfully eye-opening for me. Hearing this really changed my perspective on what it actually means to be a man. I was always growing up with the intentions of never going 50-50 or, always being the guy that is sort of ill-equipped financially. I always had goals of being a provider. This scripture taught me a very important lesson. I have it written here. This is not optional. Provision isn't a personality trait. It is a responsibility. You don't get to call yourself a man of God and avoid responsibility. Money is a tool and provision is obedience. And this is going to transition us into the last and final lesson of the day, which is lesson 5. And this lesson is build for legacy, not just income. Proverbs 13 verse 22. We're going to go back to Proverbs. You guys can learn a lot from just reading Proverbs alone. That's where I would start. Any business owners watching. Proverbs 13 verse 22 says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for righteousness. Right? It's not building wealth for yourself. It's not about what you're making on a month-to-month basis if you're spending all of it on you. What we're doing is to build generational wealth, to transform the next generation. God made us creatives so that we can continue to improve. And what I have written in my journal is most people think on a month-to-month basis. God is thinking for generations. If you plant a seed for shade today, you will sit in the sun tomorrow. But if you plant it for your children, you will build something that outlives you. God gives you ability to build something that outlives you. He gave you creativity, He gave you skills, He gave you talent. And you have an opportunity to build something that outlives you, that will serve your children and your children's children if you do it right. If you plant a seed for shade today, you will sit in the sun tomorrow. But if you plant it for your children, you will build something that outlives you. Right, so my goal at first was to create something that could sustain me, right? That would allow me to live the way I wanted to live. But as I learned more and I read more of the truth, I started to have my vision shift. And the matter of the fact is, I have it written here, if your vision ends with just you, you're thinking too small. God wants you thinking about generations. And with that being said, the goal was to get into coaching for me at first, so I can create a life where I'm doing what I love and I am sustaining me, which from the world's point of view is okay, but the goal should always be to create something that will allow the next generation to start further ahead. So the goal is focus on my coaching business. I love doing what I do, but to actually generate generational wealth, taking the wealth that I have here and buying properties, doing Airbnbs, acquiring assets for my children to come so that my children's children will be taken care of. And I'm 22 thinking about the bigger picture. Growing up, no one told you that being broke does not make you more righteous, right? It just limits what you can do for others. The goal isn't money. The goal is becoming a man that God can trust with it, right? That God can use. A man with the capacity that can bear responsibility of wealth. If he can't trust you with little, why would he bless you with more?